This is my story about the moment a marriage quietly turns into a system where one person takes and the other person funds the comfort. It starts in our kitchen late at night, with something small that shouldn't feel big, my wife flinching when I touch her shoulder, like I'm not her husband anymore. After that, every normal question becomes pressure. Every attempt to reconnect gets labeled an interrogation. And I'm expected to keep paying for the house, the bills, the car, the life, while she slowly moves further away and makes me feel crazy for noticing. I don't yell. I don't beg. I don't chase. I change the rules, space, money, access, and public boundaries, because respect doesn't come back from conversations when the other person is invested in fog. The lesson is simple and it's not romantic. When someone starts treating you like a resource instead of a partner, your job isn't to convince them to value you. Your job is to protect your dignity early, set consequences, and let actions, not words, tell you whether you still have a marriage or just a contract where you're the only one paying. The dishwasher was humming like it always did, that steady late-night sound that's supposed to mean home. I was standing behind Brooke at the kitchen island, looking at the back of my own wife like she was a coworker I barely knew. She had a kitchen towel in her hands that she didn't need. The counters were already clean. She folded the towel, unfolded it, folded it again. Fast, nervous, mechanical. Like keeping her hands busy would keep her from having to look at me. I walked up and did the most normal married guy thing in the world. I reached for her shoulder. Not dramatic. Not a grab. Just a touch. She flinched. Not a little startled. Not I'm tired. She pulled away like my hand was a stranger's hand. Without turning her head, she said, I'm not in the mood. I let my hand drop and leaned back against the fridge. You haven't been in the mood for a long time. Are you going to tell me what changed? Nobody changed, she snapped, still folding that useless towel. I have things going on. I watched her fingers press the fabric into perfect little edges. Things going on that you can't talk about to your husband? Her jaw tightened. Don't make this a thing, Mark. I didn't make anything, I replied. I touched my wife's shoulder, and she reacted like I was the cable guy. That got a glance. Quick, sharp, like a warning. She tossed the towel into the drawer hard enough to rattle silverware. I said I'm not in the mood. Stop pressing. It's exhausting. Pressing, I repeated, like I was trying the word for taste. Asking what's wrong is pressing now. She grabbed her phone off the counter. I'm going to bed. I didn't block her. I didn't follow. I just watched her walk out of the kitchen like it was a meeting she was late to. When her footsteps hit the stairs, I looked around at the house I paid for, the lights I kept on, the groceries I bought, the quiet I maintained. That moment wasn't a bad day. That was a turn. And if I'd known where it was headed, I would have stopped calling it distance and started calling it what it was, a system. The next week, the coldness turned into policy. It started small. She'd forget to answer a text about dinner until 9 at night. She'd come home with 2 bags of random stuff from the store and somehow couldn't remember the one thing I asked for. I'd suggest a simple Saturday breakfast out, the kind where you sit for an hour and pretend life isn't a treadmill, and she'd say, can't. Laundry. Errands. Not, I don't want to. Always, I'm busy being useful. Like she was doing community service for our marriage. On Tuesday, I tried again, not with emotion, with logistics. I set my phone on the table and pulled up the calendar. Thursday night. Let's do dinner. No phones. Just us. Brooke didn't sit. She hovered, arms crossed like I was about to pitch her a timeshare. She said, why are you doing this? Doing what? This, she waved at my phone, my face, my entire existence. Scheduling. Interrogating. Turning everything into a conversation. I kept my voice even. It's not an interrogation. It's a plan. You want to control everything, she shot back. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath through my nose. Right? I'm controlling. Meanwhile, you disappear for hours and act annoyed that I notice. Her eyes narrowed. I don't disappear. I'm an adult. I don't need to check in every 5 minutes. Then act like a married adult, I replied. Not a roommate with a temper. That word hit her. Roommate. I saw it in her posture. She didn't like it because it sounded accurate. She scoffed and grabbed her purse. I'm going to the store. At 8 at night? I asked. She stopped at the doorway and turned just enough to throw the line like a dart. See? Pressure. You're doing it again. I didn't chase her. I didn't stand in the driveway like a lost dog. I walked to my office, opened a spreadsheet, and did what I do when something turns unreliable. I started tracking bills, deposits, the household account, what I paid, what she used, what was necessary, what was extra. Not because I was trying to punish her. Because if someone is moving in the dark, you turn the lights on. That's not cruelty. That's sanity. When she came back, it wasn't groceries. It was a small bag with a candle and some fancy hand soap that smelled like a hotel lobby. She set it on the counter and said, "Happy now?" I looked at the bag. Was the store out of milk again? She rolled her eyes. "God, Mark." I nodded slowly. "Okay, here's where we're at. Either we're a family, which means we plan, we spend time together, we speak with basic respect, or we're not. And if we're not, then we live like it." She stared like she couldn't decide if she wanted to laugh or get angry. "You're giving me an ultimatum." "I'm giving a structure," I replied. "Because right now, you're getting the benefits of a husband with none of the responsibilities of a wife." Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't like that. She preferred fog. Fog lets you rewrite things later. "What do you want?" she demanded. I pointed to the calendar. "Time. Actual time. Not leftovers." In a tone that doesn't treat me like an annoying coworker. "And if I don't?" I shrugged. "Then we split the space, and we split the money. Your choice." She stared at me for a second too long, then grabbed that hotel soap bag and marched upstairs like she was the one offended. I didn't need her approval to set rules in my own house. That night, I moved into the guest room. Not with drama. No suitcase slam. I took a pillow, a blanket, my phone charger, and the book I'd been trying to finish for 6 months. I made the bed tight and clean. I closed the door. In the morning, she found me making coffee. Her hair was messy. She looked irritated, like my absence was an inconvenience. "You're seriously doing this?" she asked. I took a sip. "Yes." "So you're punishing me." "I'm not punishing you," I replied. "I'm adjusting. You don't want closeness. Fine. You don't get access either." She scoffed. "You're being dramatic." I set the mug down. "No. Dramatic would be begging. I'm doing the opposite." Her eyes flashed. "You're acting like some coach." I raised an eyebrow. "If you mean adult, then sure. I'm acting like an adult." She walked past me with that tight, angry energy and said over her shoulder, "Unbelievable." I watched her leave for work without a goodbye, and I thought, good. Let her feel it. Let her feel that I'm not a piece of furniture. That weekend, we had a picnic at our friend's place. Daniel and Kim lived 2 neighborhoods over in one of those suburban houses with a big backyard and string lights. They hung like they were hosting a wedding every Saturday. Daniel was the kind of guy who laughed loud and asked direct questions. Kim was sharper, more observant. She didn't talk a lot, but when she did, it landed. We showed up in separate cars because Brooke needed to run an errand first. That was new. She used to like arriving together. Now it was like she wanted the option to vanish. At the gate, Kim smiled at me, then looked past me. "Brooke coming." I kept my expression neutral. "She's on her way." Daniel clapped me on the shoulder. "Man, you've been quiet lately." "You good?" "I'm fine," I replied. "Just busy." Brooke arrived 20 minutes later, sunglasses on, like she was making an entrance. She hugged Kim, gave Daniel a quick hello, and walked right past me without touching my arm, my back, nothing. Daniel noticed. His smile tightened. We sat at a picnic table with paper plates. People talked about work, kids, home projects. Normal stuff. I tried to keep it normal. Then Daniel brought up the guest room, because of course he did. He'd helped me paint it last year. "So, Mark," Daniel said, biting into a burger, "you ever finish setting up that guest room? You made it look nicer than my bedroom." Kim shot him a look like, "Please don't." Brooke laughed. Not a warm laugh. A laugh with teeth. "Oh, the guest room. Yeah, Mark's been really into systems lately." I looked at her. "Systems?" She waved her hand. "Like, we need a calendar. We need rules. We need structure." She leaned toward Kim like sharing gossip. "He's been reading articles, and now he's playing life coach in our kitchen." A couple people chuckled, not because it was funny, but because people do that when the air gets weird. Daniel's eyebrows lifted. Up. I set my plate down slowly. Not angry. Controlled. "Brooke, that's enough." She smiled like she'd been waiting for that. "What?" "I'm joking." Kim's face was still. She wasn't laughing. I looked around the table. "I'm not a punchline." "Not here." Brooke tilted her head, voice sweet and loud. "See? Coach. Always policing the vibe." Daniel cleared his throat. "Hey, let's." Brooke cut him off. "No, it's fine. I'm allowed to talk. He's just sensitive. Sensitive. That was the word people use when they want to keep being disrespectful but don't want consequences. I stood up. Calm. Plate still on the table. Thank you for having us, Kim. Daniel. Kim blinked. Mark. I'm good, I replied. Really? I'm not doing this. Brooke's eyes widened. You're leaving? Over a joke? I picked up my keys from the table. Over disrespect. Daniel stood halfway, torn. Man, sit down. It's just. I gave him a small nod. I'm not mad at you. But I'm not staying. Kim's voice was quiet but firm. Brooke, that wasn't cool. Brooke stared at her, offended that someone didn't play along. Oh my God. Everybody's so serious. I looked at Brooke one more time. You can stay. You can find your own ride home. Her mouth fell open. Are you kidding me? I smiled faintly. No. I walked out through the gate, hearing the backyard chatter stumble into silence behind me. I got into my car and drove home like it was any other day. The micro cliff wasn't the picnic. It was what I knew was coming next. She was going to find out what it feels like when I stop covering for her. She came home an hour later in a storm. I was in the living room, not watching the TV, just sitting with my laptop open. The house felt calm, like it didn't care about her mood. She slammed the door. What the hell was that? I didn't look up right away. That was me leaving. You embarrassed me, she snapped. I finally met her eyes. You embarrassed yourself. I just refused to stand there and smile while you did it. She threw her purse onto the couch. You're unbelievable. You act like you're better than everyone. I nodded once. I act like I deserve basic respect. That's not the same thing. She paced. It was a joke. It was a test, I replied. And you failed. Her eyes narrowed. Oh, listen to you. I closed the laptop. We're changing how money moves in this house. That stopped her pacing. What? She demanded. I'm not funding a life where I get mocked and ignored, I said. The joint account is for the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and the car insurance. That's it. Anything else gets discussed first. No more random spending. No more mystery errands. Her face tightened. So now you're controlling me with money. I'm controlling my money, I corrected. You've been controlling the comfort while I pay for it. She scoffed. You can't do that. I tilted my head. Watch me. I slid the laptop toward her, screen turned, numbers clear. Here's what comes in. Here's what goes out. Here's what stays for bills. My paycheck is getting rerouted. Tonight. Brooke stared at the spreadsheet like it was a threat. You're punishing me, she said again, like it was her favorite song. No, I replied. I'm ending the free-for-all. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she tried a different tactic, softer. Mark, you're overreacting. We've just been off lately. Off, I repeated. You flinch when I touch you and call normal questions interrogation. That's not off. That's a pattern. Her eyes glistened like she could summon emotion on command. I've been stressed. I stood up. Then handle your stress. But don't dump it on me and then complain when I stop being convenient. She stared at me, breathing a little faster. So what? You're just going to live in the guest room forever? Until respect comes back, I replied. Or until I decide I'm done. That word landed. Done. She didn't like that one either. She forced a laugh. You're not done. You love this house. You love your little routines. I smiled. I love my peace. Big difference. She turned away like she was disgusted. But I saw the calculation behind it. She wasn't upset about my feelings. She was upset about losing control of the setup. That night, she tried her first nice wave. I came home from work and the kitchen smelled like my favorite pasta. Not the quick box stuff. The real kind she used to make when we were still us. She stood there with a forced smile. I made dinner. I set my keys down and looked at the table, candles lit like a movie scene. What's this? A reset, she said quickly. I'm sorry about the picnic. I shouldn't have joked like that. I nodded. Thank you for apologizing. Her shoulders relaxed like she thought she'd won something. So, can we just watch a movie after? Like normal? I took a plate, sat down, and ate a few bites. I wasn't rude. I wasn't dramatic. Then I wiped my mouth and stood up. Brooke blinked. Where are you going? Guest room, I replied. Her smile cracked. Seriously? I gave her a calm look. Pasta doesn't erase a pattern. Her voice got sharper. So I apologize, and you still punish me. I leaned against the counter. You apologized because the money changed. Not because you suddenly respect me. That's not true, she snapped. Then prove it over time, I replied. For now, we're neighbors with a mortgage. Her eyes flashed, offended again. You're cold. I nodded once. I learned from the best. She stared at me like she wanted to throw the plate, but she didn't. She just swallowed her anger and forced her face back into something softer. Good night, she said, too sweet. Night, I replied. And as I walked down the hall, I knew she was going to try something else. Because that apology? That was a tool, not a change. The kill turn didn't happen at home. It happened on Oak Avenue. It was a Wednesday around noon. I had a gap between job sites. I work in property management, the kind of work where your phone never stops and somebody's always got a leak or a broken lock. I'd planned to grab a coffee and sit in my truck for 10 minutes. Oak Avenue had this small cafe with big windows and uncomfortable chairs that make you leave faster. I parked across the street and looked up, and there she was, Brooke, in the corner booth, leaning in toward a man I'd never seen before. Not a coworker vibe, not a networking vibe. They were close, shoulders angled toward each other, like the outside world didn't exist. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen aimed at me in months. Not polite, not forced. Easy. The man said something and she laughed, then reached across the table and adjusted his sleeve like it was a familiar habit. I sat in my truck and watched long enough to understand the shape of it. I didn't need a speech bubble. They stood to leave. Outside, near the parking lot, he touched her lower back to guide her around a car. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. Funny how that works. They hugged. Not a polite hug. A lingering one. I didn't walk in and cause a scene. That's for guys who want attention. I wanted clarity. I started my truck and followed at a distance. He drove north, turned into a neighborhood about 15 minutes away, and pulled into a driveway. A modest house. Clean yard. 2 cars. A woman opened the front door before he even reached it. She stepped onto the porch like she'd been waiting. He kissed her cheek and walked inside like a normal husband coming home. I sat at the curb, engine off, and let the facts settle. My wife was meeting a married man in the middle of the day and coming home to me like nothing happened. That wasn't confusion. That was a double life. I took 2 photos. One of the house number, one of his car in the driveway. Clear enough to be real, not dramatic enough to look like I was hunting. Then I drove back to work and finished my day like a professional. Because that's the kind of control Brooke never understood. I don't lose it. I redirect it. That evening, I didn't confront Brooke. Not yet. I opened my laptop and did something else adults do when they're done being played. I built the next move. The next morning, I found the woman. It wasn't hard. I'm good at details. I'm good at addresses. I'm good at patterns. Her name was Amy. I learned it from a neighborhood social page where she'd posted about a lost dog a month earlier. Same porch. Same house. Same smile. I drove over around lunchtime and knocked. Amy opened the door with a cautious expression, like she'd learned to expect salespeople and excuses. Yes, she asked. I kept my hands visible. Calm voice. Hi, my name is Mark. I'm sorry to show up like this. I need 5 minutes. If I'm wrong, I leave and you never see me again. She studied my face. About what? I held my phone down at my side. About your husband. Her eyes sharpened. Not panic. Awareness. She stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. Say it. I nodded once, respectful. Yesterday, around noon, he was at the cafe on Oak Avenue with my wife. Amy's face didn't collapse into hysteria. It tightened like a lock. My wife's name is Brooke, I added. I watched them. I followed him here. I took photos of the house and the car because I'm not interested in rumors. I'm interested in facts. Amy stared for a long moment, then said quietly, Show me. I handed her my phone. She looked at the house number photo, then the car, then back at me. Her throat moved like she swallowed something hard. That's his car, she said. I nodded. I'm not here to destroy your life. But mine is already on fire from someone else's lies, and I'm done pretending I don't smell smoke. Amy exhaled slowly. How long? I don't know, I replied. But I know it's not a one-time lunch. She looked out at the street like she was measuring her options. Then she said, Okay, that surprised me. No screaming. No denial. Just a woman doing math. She asked, What are you planning to do? I'm planning to remove fog, I replied. In my house, at my table, with a witness. Because my wife rewrites reality for sport. Amy's mouth tightened like she understood exactly what I meant. So you want me there? Yes, I said. If you're willing. Not to fight. Not to yell. Just to sit and watch facts land. Amy nodded once. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. I didn't hesitate. Tomorrow at 6. She looked me in the eye. If she tries to spin it, I won't play along. I'm not asking you to, I replied. I'm asking you to be present. That's enough. Amy let out a short, bitter laugh. Present? Yeah, that's been missing. I gave her a small nod. Same. Before I left, she said, Mark, do you have kids? No, I replied. She swallowed. We do. I paused. Then we keep it clean. No shouting. No chaos. Amy's eyes hardened. Clean doesn't mean soft. I almost smiled. Agreed. When I got home, Brooke was in the kitchen again, phone in hand, acting busy. I didn't explain anything. I didn't give her a target. I just said, tomorrow, 6 p.m., you will be here. She didn't look up. I have work. You'll reschedule, I replied. Now she looked up, annoyed. Excuse me. I kept my tone flat. This is not optional. Be here at 6. Her eyes narrowed. What is this? It's a requirement, I said. Not a conversation. She stared like she wanted to argue, but something in my face told her it wouldn't work. Fine. She shrugged like she didn't care. Whatever. 6. That night she was quieter than usual. Not warm, just cautious. And the next morning, she hit me with the second wave of sweetness, upgraded. I walked into the kitchen and there was coffee waiting. Fresh. My mug. Set out like a peace offering. Brooke stood there in a sweater she knew I liked. Hair done, voice softer. Morning, she said. I took the mug but didn't reward the performance with a smile. Morning. She touched my hand lightly. Quick, like a demonstration. I've been thinking. We should go out this weekend. Like a real date. I looked at her, and for a split second I almost admired the timing. Almost. She added, I miss us. I missed being good. I took a sip of coffee. We'll see what happens after tonight. Her hand froze midair. After tonight? I watched her eyes shift, calculating again. She tried to keep her face neutral, but the tension crawled up her neck. What's tonight? She asked, too casual. I set the mug down. 6 o'clock. Remember? Her voice sharpened. You're being weird. I shrugged. Get used to it. She stared at me like she wanted to dig for information, but I didn't give her anything to grab. As I left for work, I heard her exhale behind me, sharp, like she was trying not to show fear. That told me everything. She didn't feel love. She felt threat, and she didn't know where it was coming from. At 5:58, I opened my front door. Amy stood there in a simple jacket, hair pulled back, face composed. She held a small folder like she was walking into a meeting, not a meltdown. You ready? She asked. I've been ready, I replied. I stepped aside and let her in. Brooke was in the living room, phone in hand, already dressed like she planned to leave again. When she saw Amy, her whole body reacted like a mask slipping. Who is that? Brooke demanded. What is she doing in my house? Amy didn't flinch. She just stood there, steady. I closed the door behind us and spoke like I was calling a work order. Sit down, Brooke. Brooke barked a laugh. No. Are you kidding me? Mark, who is this? Amy's voice was calm. My name is Amy. Brooke's eyes snapped to me. Why did you bring a stranger here? I didn't raise my voice. Because you lie better when we're alone. Her face went red. Excuse me. I nodded toward the couch. Sit. Brooke didn't sit. She paced 2 steps, then pointed at Amy. This is insane. You're bringing people into our home to accuse me of what? Whatever story you've invented. Amy looked at Brooke like she was looking through her. I didn't invent anything. Brooke snapped, stay out of this. You don't even know us. Amy's mouth tightened. I know my husband. That word made Brooke's pacing stop. Brooke blinked fast. What? I spoke quietly, each word placed. Oak Avenue. Yesterday. Noon. Brooke's face went blank for half a second, then she laughed too loud. Oh my God. You followed me. That's sick. I tilted my head. Notice how you didn't say you weren't there. She pointed at me, shaking a little. You're paranoid. This is what I mean. Pressure. Interrogation. You're unwell. I nodded slowly. Here's the problem with calling me crazy. I came with receipts. Brooke scoffed. Receipts. Listen to yourself. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the coffee table. You were at the cafe on Oak Avenue with a man. Not a coworker. Not a contractor. A man you were comfortable touching. Brooke threw her hands up. It was a meeting. Amy spoke, calm and sharp. A meeting where you adjust his sleeve and laugh in a corner booth? Brooke's eyes flashed. I don't know what you think you saw. I didn't argue. I scrolled and held the phone up. House number. Brooke stared at the screen, then snapped back. So you stalked him too. Congratulations. You've hit a new low. I nodded once. And yet the facts still stand. Brooke's voice rose. This is insane. This is abusive. Bringing a stranger. I cut her off. Not loud, just final. Stop. You don't get to turn this into a performance. Brooke's eyes darted to Amy again, then back to me. Okay, fine. It was about a project. Volunteer stuff. We meet there because it's convenient. Amy opened her folder and pulled out a photo. A wedding photo. Amy and her husband smiling, dressed up, happy. She held it up at chest level. That's my husband, Amy said. His name is Jason. Brooke's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her throat moved. The confident fog started to thin. I watched her carefully. This was the part where she usually flipped reality like a card trick. Brooke forced a laugh. I don't know that man. Amy didn't move. That's him. Brooke snapped. A lot of men look like that. I swiped on my phone and showed the second photo. Driveway, car, house. That's his car. That's the place he drove after leaving Oak Avenue. Brooke's breathing got faster. You're disgusting. I shrugged. Still not a denial. She turned to Amy, voice turning mean. So what is this? You two planned this? You're both unhinged. Amy's voice stayed even. I didn't plan for my husband to have secret lunches. Brooke flinched at secret, like the word burned. Then she tried to pivot again. She put a hand on her chest. Softened her tone, eyes glossy. Mark, this is crazy. I've been trying to deal with stress. You've been acting controlling. I needed someone to talk to. I nodded slowly. And the sleeve thing? The parking lot hug? That's talking now. Brooke snapped. You don't know what you saw. I looked at Amy, then back to Brooke. I saw enough. Amy spoke again, quiet but heavy. How many times? Brooke's eyes flashed anger. None of your business. Amy nodded like she expected that. Okay. Brooke turned to me, voice urgent. Mark, get her out. This is our marriage. I didn't budge. You made it our marriage plus guests. You don't get to choose the audience now. Brooke's face hardened. So what? You want me to admit to some story so you can feel powerful? I leaned forward slightly. Not threatening. Just present. I want you to stop lying in my house. Silence hit the room like the power went out. Brooke looked between us, realizing the fog wasn't working. Then her shoulders dropped a fraction and she said, quiet and bitter, fine. Yes, I met him. Amy's jaw tightened, but she stayed composed. Brooke added quickly, like she could control the damage with speed. It wasn't what you're making it. I nodded. You met him. More than once. Brooke's eyes flicked away. Maybe. Amy's voice sharpened just a little. So you knew he was married. Brooke snapped. Don't talk to me like you're better. Amy didn't blink. I'm not better. I'm just not lying right now. Brooke's face went red again. Mark, listen. I didn't want to hurt you. I was confused. I sat back. No, Brooke. You weren't confused. You were comfortable. She shook her head fast. That's not fair. I spoke calmly, like I was closing a business account. Here's what's fair. You wanted the house, the bills paid, the stability, the status of being married, while you built another option quietly. You pushed me away, mocked me publicly, and acted offended when I noticed. Brooke's eyes widened. That's not. I held up a hand. Done with speeches. Her voice cracked into a new tactic, softer, pleading. Mark, I love you. I've been struggling. I can fix this. I nodded once. You had months to fix tone. You used those months to call me exhausting and coach and sensitive. Now you want to reset because you got caught. Brooke stepped closer, reaching for my arm. Please. I stepped back, just one step. No touching. Her face twisted. You're being cruel. I looked her straight in the eyes. No, I'm being consistent. Amy stood quietly by the doorway now, eyes lowered for a second like she was holding herself together. She didn't need to say anything else. The facts already did the job. I turned to Brooke. New agreement. You pack a bag and you go to your sister's tonight. Brooke's head snapped up. What? No. This is my house too. I nodded. Not tonight. You can't do that, she said, voice rising again. I spoke evenly. Watch me. She looked around like she expected furniture to take her side. Where am I supposed to go? Your sister, I repeated. Or a hotel. Not here. Brooke's eyes flashed with rage. So you're kicking me out. I'm removing you from my space. I corrected. Because you don't respect it. She tried one last shift, voice syrupy. Mark, don't do this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. I'll do whatever you want. I nodded slowly. You're offering effort now because the comfort is threatened. That's not growth. That's bargaining. Brooke's face tightened into something ugly. You'll regret this. I looked at her with a calm that made her even angrier. I don't regret clean exits. Pack your bag. Lock the door behind you. She stared at me like she wanted to break something, but she didn't. Because Amy was there. Because witnesses change how games get played. Brooke marched upstairs, yanked a suitcase out of the closet, and dragged it down the stairs with the kind of rage that's loud on purpose. She stopped at the bottom and pointed at me. This is on you, she said. I didn't move. No, this is on your choices. She looked at Amy, then back to me, and hissed, enjoy your little team up. Amy's voice finally cut in. Calm and cold. It's not a team up. It's two adults comparing notes. Brooke froze, like she couldn't believe someone spoke to her like that. Then she grabbed her suitcase, walked to the door, and yanked it open. Before she stepped out, she turned and threw one more line like a grenade. You're going to be alone. I smiled faintly. I've been alone. This is just the first time the house matches the truth. She stood there for a second, lips pressed tight, then left. I closed the door gently, turned the lock, and looked at Amy. You okay? Amy swallowed, then nodded. I will be. I nodded back. Same. She left without drama. No hugs. No bonding. Just two people exiting a mess with their dignity intact. That night, I didn't drink. I didn't stare at the wall. I changed passwords. I moved the remaining shared access to a bills-only setup. I rerouted my direct deposit fully. I wrote down what belonged to the house and what belonged to me. I cleaned the guest room like I was prepping it for a new season of life. In the following weeks, Brooke tried to crawl back through the cracks. First it was angry texts. You're insane. You embarrassed me. We need to talk. Then it was sweet messages. I miss you. Can we just get coffee? I made a mistake. I kept it simple. If you need something from the house, text me a list. I'll leave it on the porch. She showed up once without warning, standing in the driveway with that same look she used at the picnic, like she could shame me into softness. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue in the street. I opened the door just enough to speak. She said, You're really doing this. I nodded. Yes. You're throwing away years. I tilted my head. No, I'm throwing away disrespect. She tried a small laugh. You think you're some hero. I shrugged. I think I'm a man who pays his bills and expects basic decency. Wild concept. Her face hardened. You'll come back. I looked at her like she was talking about the weather. No. She stared a moment, then turned and walked back to her car, shoulders tight, like she couldn't believe her usual tools didn't work. Here's the part people don't tell you. When you stop being convenient, you learn who is actually attached to you and who is attached to what you provide. 3 months later, my life was quieter, cleaner, better. I kept the house. I kept my routines. I started going to the gym early again, not to prove anything, just because it felt good to move without carrying someone else's weight. Daniel started inviting me over on Saturdays to watch games, and Kim would hand me a plate and say, You look better, like an observation, not a compliment. At work, my coworker Raul, older guy, always blunt, looked at me one day and said, You walking different. I smirked. I'm sleeping. He nodded like that was the whole explanation. Good. I met someone later than I expected. Her name was Lisa. She didn't come with fireworks. She came with consistency. Straight answers. A calm laugh. The first time we disagreed about something, she didn't punish me with silence or turn it into a trial. She just said, Here's what I need, and waited to see if I could meet it. It felt almost suspicious at first, like my nervous system didn't trust peace. But peace is addictive when you've lived in tension. As for Brooke, I heard things through the same grapevine she tried to control. She moved in with her sister for a little while, which turned into longer. She complained to anyone who would listen that I changed, that I got cold, that I chose money over love. Funny how people call it money when what they really miss is access. I didn't correct her. I didn't chase the story. I didn't need to win the narrative. I won my life back. And if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's this. A man doesn't lose his family the day his wife meets someone on Oak Avenue. He loses it the day he accepts disrespect as normal. I didn't accept it. I adjusted. I acted. And I locked the door behind the version of me who used to beg for basic decency in his own kitchen. It fell apart for one reason. Respect got replaced with control. Brooke didn't wake up one day and suddenly hate me. She just started living like the marriage was optional for her, but mandatory for me. She cut off closeness, dodged real conversations by calling them pressure, and used "I'm busy" as a shield so I'd stop asking questions. Then she pushed it further, canceling plans, disappearing for errands, and turning my attempts at structure into a joke, especially in front of other people. That wasn't distance. That was strategy. And the marriage didn't survive because I stopped playing the role she needed. The quiet provider who funds the house, keeps the lights on, and stays grateful for scraps of attention. The moment I moved into the guest room, split the budget, and demanded adult rules, she tried to soften, because her comfort was threatened, not because her respect returned. When the facts finally hit daylight and a witness was in the room, the fog stopped working, and what was left wasn't a relationship. It was a setup. The lesson is blunt. A marriage doesn't break from one argument. It breaks when one person starts treating the other like a utility. Use it, pay it, don't ask questions. If your partner needs you confused to keep their lifestyle intact, you don't fix that with more patience. You fix it with boundaries, consequences, and the willingness to walk away while you still respect yourself.